It's really laying the foundation. The market out there in IT world, it's quite busy. There's a lot of competition, okay? And you might be the only person in Sydney, for example, or only person in New Zealand, wherever it is. But at some stage, you're going to compete with someone else in another geographic region, or they'll come into your region, okay? Even if you're so specialist. So like I've got security guys that, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, there wasn't many security software companies out there, but now there's a ton, and they're growing like you can't believe it, okay? Because security is such a big thing. Now, it didn't happen overnight. Obviously, it's getting bigger and bigger every year or two, the security part of, IT, but it's growing. So now they're niching down further into a point where they know exactly what they are. So they're no longer broader, they're becoming niche within that category. And it gets really, really powerful. So I've got clients that when I started out with 3 years ago, that were Microsoft partners, but they niched down to a product in Microsoft and built their IP around Microsoft product, and now go to market with Microsoft and are doing amazingly well. So they built their product. They've taken their IP of a product they were building on a separate standalone product and built it onto Microsoft platform, and now taking that to market. Okay. Yes, they lose a lot of flexibility. They don't own the software. They don't own the IP. A lot of that stuff is their IP, but it's not their code. A lot of that code is Microsoft-based code because on the Microsoft platform. And that's what they're taking to market. But it's quicker and faster, and they're going to make a shitload more money. And they're not betting the whole horse or whole house on one thing. They've gone and bet on something else. And it's working really well. Okay. But it took us a year and a half to work that model out for them. It wasn't straight away. Now they're the leaders in Australia and New Zealand, all right? And they've been contacted by overseas companies now to work with them. Okay, so that's how powerful you can get. And they're a small company. When I started out with them, they were like 4 or 5 people. Now they're 15, 20 people, highly efficient, highly profitable, and hardly any competition, and they know what they're doing. So it's really important. So you've got to know what you're famous for. So I know 1 or 2 of you guys pitched up to that session we did on Thursday with PJ, and it's around the 3 circles. And it's really understanding, how do we work out what you're famous for? Now, there's probably lots of things that you guys are famous for. So if you look at your products or your products or your services that you're doing, you might have 3 or 4 service offerings. Like I know I look at G-Man, he's got quite a few. So you could have up to 6, but let's say, for example, we just want to choose 1 or 2, okay, that you think you're going to be good at, or you want to put a lot of effort into, all right? Because that's what we want to get out of this. When you're having a conversation in a couple of weeks' time with an existing client or a future client, you've got to actually talk to them in the language that they want. They understand the problem. So if a consultant, you've all heard this, consultancy firms, don't get too close to them, otherwise, they'll tell your time with your watch. You've all heard of those sort of little stories, or those little sayings around consultants. And what they do is, they go into a client, they look at the problem, they diagnose the problem, they tell the client what the problem is, and then they've got a solution for the problem. All right? How do they do that? Well, they really understand their scope of work. They really understand that area. So they know, that there's something happening within that client. There's something that they're losing money or losing waste, or something's happening with that system, or they can't work remotely, whatever it is, efficiently. And you can see the symptoms, but they just don't know the problem. Well, we'll be able to tell them what the problem is, clearly articulate their problem. And if you can tell them that problem they're solving and they relate to that problem, then basically you can have a great offer. And with that offer, you then know who the audience is. And with that, you'll be able to, put together a solution that really, really works well. It helps with sales, helps with margin, helps hiring staff. This thing will solve a lot of problems. So what I'm saying to you today is all put your cap on. All right. The question you want to ask yourselves is, what do you want to be famous for? You can't be famous for everything as a small company. So I would say just tick one at a time, one thing at the moment. Okay. Pick one thing at the moment. What are you going to be famous for?